There's a great divide in the fanbase of the Civilization series between people who think that Civilization 5 is a great game and those who think that it's awful. It feels like there's no middle ground and neither side seems to be able to understand the stance of the other one at all. It's just a lot of anger and insults lobbed back and forth. Some people chalk it up to being a conflict between people who love Civ 4 and those who love Civ 5, but I think it's a bit more complicated than that. As a longtime hardcore fan of the Civilization series, Civ 5 Brave New World really has me torn. There is so much that I love to death about it that I have 652 hours on it on Steam, and yet I hate how broken it feels on higher difficulties. Today, I want to talk about the Great Divide in the Civilization fanbase when it comes to Civ 5 and exactly why it exists. If you haven't played Civ 5 before, it's a turn-based strategy game played on a hex grid in a randomly generated world where you play as one of many countries with different unique units and abilities with the goal of becoming the most dominant country in the world through science, diplomacy, culture, or conquest. Although this game is by far the biggest change the series has ever taken, overhauling core game mechanics like the combat and movement, the general idea is still the same. Colonize and conquer land, build up your cities to be productive and efficient, and race to a victory condition while keeping the other players from reaching theirs. I hear fans of Civ 5 talk all the time about the great new mechanics that were introduced that they love, like having the United Nations vote on rules that can give some players advantages over others, the culture system that encourages conflict without war, and the ideology system that shakes up the diplomatic relations halfway through the game as the world governments take shape after the Industrial Revolution, and I completely agree. I love these mechanics to death, even if they aren't always the most balanced. These are all mechanics that Civ 5 had that Civ 4 didn't, and yet many hardcore fans still maintain that Civ 4 was by far the best in the series, and I actually agree with them. You see, most Civ 5 fans I know didn't start with the earlier Civ games. Civ 5 was their first one and they love it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a good starting point for pinpointing exactly where the Great Divide lies. Civ 5 was a very beginner-friendly game. It's tailored to work out very well at lower and medium difficulties. Civ 4, on the other hand, does well at working on those lower difficulties, but it has a much steeper learning curve turning away new players. This is where you start to see the Great Divide form. Players who started with Civ 4 or only play Civ games on lower difficulties tend to love Civ 5 because it runs very well on those difficulties. Vocal hardcore Civ fans from earlier games, however, would have been playing Civ 4 on higher difficulties, and Civ 4 is a game that becomes extremely challenging but fair on high difficulties, requiring very advanced strategies and to be willing to adapt to what's going on at all times. This is where high-level Civ 5 falls apart for older players coming into the new game. Civ 5's high difficulties are frankly broken, not because they're unfairly hard, but because they require very little actual strategy. This is the root of the Great Divide. I play Civ 5 on Immortal difficulty, the second from highest difficulty in the entire game, and I win nearly every match. In Civ 4, I would not stand a chance on that difficulty. The strategy is too complex for me despite hundreds of hours of practice and hundreds of hours of watching videos and researching strategy. In Civ 5, however, there's one strategy that wins nearly every match for me. It's not even really a strategy, it's just 3 little tips that often make you untouchable, and I'm gonna tell you them right now. Manage the tiles your city works manually so that you get as much food as you can while still working high-yield tiles like cattle and horses. Build 3 cities, with one being next to a mountain if you can, and constantly bribe the AI to go to war with each other. That's it. Your goal is to have 3 cities with huge populations and make everyone hate each other but love you. After that, you just sit back, get a great economy while everyone else is busy fighting, and win a science victory with all the research agreements that everyone's signing with you. This tactic is so easy and efficient that I often win entire matches without being involved in a single war. Sometimes it's difficult if the rest of the countries that spawned aren't very warlike, but it still works at least 75% of the time. There lies the problem. That's boring. It's just the same strategy over and over no matter what civ you are or what land you've been given, and it's too easy. It doesn't matter if I'm Attila the Hun or George Washington, my strategy is the same because it's the best thing you can do. You can argue it's the fault of the player for choosing to play that way, but it's consistent. It's what the game taught us is most efficient to do. Have a small empire with very highly populated cities, and make sure the AI all hate each other so that they don't spam research agreements with each other and grow too advanced to compete with. Civ 4 wasn't like this. At high difficulties, your strategy changed, but it still depended on players to pay attention to things like the map, what countries liked other countries, and what land was up for grabs. In Civ 5, once I have my 3 cities I'm happy with, I rarely even look at other countries. I just click them every few turns to bribe them to fight each other. It's actually at my advantage to take as little land as I can, because the AI will just make more cities and crash their economies from a lack of happiness. I end up finishing full matches on Epic Game Pace in only 3 hours because most of what I'm doing after the first hour is just hitting enter to skip turns. Are you watching the gameplay right now? Does this look exciting to you? I'm not even trying. I have 2 archers and a swordsman from the Bronze Age, and my neighbors are using rifles. I'm sandwiched between Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan, 2 of history's greatest conquerors. I could get taken over in 5 turns, and no one wants to attack me. At the end of the day, Civ 5 is still a great game, and it's tons of fun for players who don't care about doing the highest difficulties, but hardcore Civ 4 players who say Civ 5 is broken really do have a point. Civ 5 had to make maps much bigger to accommodate the 1 unit per tile rule, and they didn't. So everything has to be worth less, everything has to slow down, and massive penalties for the global happiness cap means you really should just have about 3 cities. You can get away with playing all of the different styles that the game supports when you play on Prince or King, and if you enjoy that, hey, power to you, I love it too, but on Immortal, the game will just bore you to tears. That's it for this retrospective on the Great Divide. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about Civilization for way too long, maybe you want to watch me some more. I've got a new video coming out every day, so go ahead and subscribe if you like my videos. If you want to see some more of my reviews, the video on the left is of my recent review of Party Hard. If you're more into playthroughs, the video on the right is of Far Cry 4. I've also got Facebook and Twitter if you're into social media, and if you want to support me monetarily, check out my Patreon page, where you can donate and get rewards in return, like being part of the community Minecraft server whitelist. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. As a little bonus, let me give you another Civ 5 tip that the rest of you won't hear about. Looking for a spot to put another city and you see salt? Make that a high priority. Salt is insanely amazing in that game. Best tile yield you can get for a single tile in the entire game. Until next time, have a nice day.